Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Sarah Boone. What's been going on in this trial? What happened on Monday? What happened on Tuesday? Inquiring minds want to know. Hello. It's morning here. Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. This is Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm Rebecca, your host, and I recap live trials so you have something to listen to while you're crafting. Yesterday, I was listening to Sarah Boone testify on the stand, and I was diamond painting. Look, I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, that's me in the craft room. Anyway, lots to get to today. So Sarah Boone is on trial for the murder of her fiance. They were engaged. George Torres. They had been living together for about 3.5 years. They were having a relaxing day doing art, painting, not diamond painting, just, she got out the Crayola version of artwork that her son had, and they were painting, doing puzzles, 1,000-piece puzzle they did. And then they decided, hey, let's play hide and go seek. Only neither of them understood the rules of hide and go seek. He gets into a suitcase. She doesn't let him out, and he passes away in the suitcase. That's the short version. The long version is so much more interesting, you guys. So on Monday, we got to hear from the medical examiner. And I got to tell you, I was blown away. I knew something was going on with this baseball bat and the stairs, but I didn't know what. I thought, oh, that's just me, wanting to add more drama to the case. Well, I was not wrong. So let's talk about that. So cause and manner of death, that's what a medical examiner, that's the purpose of a medical examiner. They need to determine what is the cause of death, what was the manner of death. Cause of death is, what was the immediate cause of that person dying? What happened? Manner of death, is it a suicide, a homicide, a natural death, undecided? There's all kinds of manners of death. This one, homicide. Yeah. And the cause of death, positional asphyxia and environmental suffocation. Now, I'm going to explain to you what that is, because that's an interesting one. I mean, but to boil it way down, it means there wasn't enough oxygen in the air where he was. So one of the questions she was asked is, are you able to determine the time of death? No, she could not. Too many factors going into that. His size, his level of intoxication, the temperature, the amount of oxygen. There's just no way to tell. But she could tell that he had been in that suitcase for about 11 hours. So, and in the fetal position. That's, I don't know if you know what fetal position is. It's where you're all curled up in a little ball, your knees to chest, your arms in, and his head was down, because he had to fit into this suitcase. He didn't have to, but he chose to. Anyway, here's the interesting thing, and the jury was shown photographs of this. He had head trauma. Now, we didn't see the photographs, but he had head trauma. Bruising, swelling. I don't think he had like any fractures or hemorrhages or anything like that, but the left side of his forehead, or was it the left side? Left side of his forehead, his left eye, and then his lips had these small lacerations and some bruising. The elbow, was it the elbow? Yeah, the elbow was discolored from pressure. Now, she said, that's something that happens when you're in the same position for a long, long time, and your the weight of your body starts to settle, and you're gonna get pressure. You know, older people get pressure sores when they don't change positions. Well, he had some pressure, marks on his elbow, but his shoulder now, they showed the jury all these other pictures that I'm talking about, but we got to see the shoulder. Yay. The cameraman let us see the shoulder, and it looked horrendous. It was swollen and bruised to hell. It looked horrible, the shoulder. So she said definitely blunt force trauma to the head, blunt force trauma to the shoulder, left shoulder and arm. He had scratches, bruising. He had 3 separate injuries on his back. So in totality, she said probably 5 to 6 areas of blunt force trauma. Think baseball bat, guys. Baseball bat. Mhm. So she also did, one of the things you do during the autopsy is toxicology. You send a sample of the blood to the lab to find out the degree or what's in there and the degree of intoxication of this person. His alcohol level was 0.138. Now, the legal limit for driving, they always leave off the for driving part. You can be as drunk as you want when you're at home. I'm just saying, just don't get in the car and drive. That's when the legal limit comes into play. But he was 0.138. The legal limit to drive is 0.08 in most states, somewhere around that range. So he was pretty intoxicated. But they also tested fluid from his eye. It's called vitriol. That level was 0.213. So that level, it's kind of complicated to explain it, but she said that at one point the blood level would have been equivalent to the vitriol level. So he was at least a 2.13 at one time. And she said both levels were starting to come down. Now, she said once the person dies, because I was worried, well, how long has he been dead? He's been sitting there. The alcohol level is going to keep going down. No, apparently when you die, the level stops. Because you're no longer metabolizing the alcohol. The metabolism stops. So whatever that level was right before you died is the level that the medical examiner is going to get when they do their autopsy the next day. So she said it was on its way down, but that would have at that level, it would have impaired his judgment, his decision-making abilities, and yeah, fine motor coordination. So, try to get out of the suitcase. She said there was no evidence to dispute that he got into the suitcase by himself. Now, we know she zipped him up. So let's talk about the level of oxygen, because the environmental suffocation. So first we can talk about asphyxia. So she's explained there's lots of different asphyxias. You can hang yourself, you can choke to death, you can drown. There's all kinds of ways. The most common kind of asphyxia, and I did not know this, is hanging. Really? I would have guessed drowning, but it's not. It's hanging. Yeah, anyway, or at least in Indiana. I think she was talking more globally, though. Anyway, the positional asphyxia, like he was in a position where he just could not take a breath. And if he did take a breath, when you're in a confined space and you take a breath, your ribs are expanding and contracting. And when they contract, that space gets even smaller that you're in, and you're not able to expand again. And eventually you're going to die of suffocation. I learned that through another podcaster. He does these stories all the time of people that get into places they shouldn't be. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about environmental suffocation. So in the environment, the oxygen level like right now in this room, they call it room air. In the air that we're breathing is 21%, or it should be. Once you get down to about 10%, you will lose consciousness. So he probably lost consciousness before he died. When you get down below 8%, you will die. Now, when it gets down to about 10%, you're going to lose consciousness, and that'll take less than a minute, according to this medical examiner. And you will die within minutes when it gets to about 8% or less. So then, the state sits down. We're done talking to her. The prosecution gets up for cross-examination. They bring up the bat. I'm like, oh my God, why would he bring up the bat? The state didn't address it. Why is he addressing it? Okay. This defense attorney has not done his client any favors. But just like me, I think the jury's thinking, what did she do with that bat? So he needs to explain what she did with this bat. So here's the thing. We saw a video, or you're going to see the video. That's coming in next. I'll explain it when we see the video. Anyway, we'll get there. But he said, he asked, if you take a bat and you're holding it like this, where the end of the bat is here, the crown of the bat, not like that, like this, you're thrusting it at a person. Were his injuries consistent with that kind of trauma? Yes. Yes. Okay. What was going on here? Now, I've lost my place. I'm using two different notebooks here. Let me go find the other notebook. Hold on. So the next person to take the stand is a digital forensic examiner, and it was her job to examine the phone. So she did examine the phone, and what she found were several text messages, photos, videos. She puts it through the Cellbrite program, and it chronologically lists everything. So we're going to talk about, I'm still looking through my notebook. Okay, so the first text that gets highlighted, she texts Brian, her ex-husband, that night about 5 p.m. Or there is a text from Brian to Sarah around 5 p.m. saying, please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you. Now, I don't know what prompted that text. Then Sarah texts him back a minute later, and bless you and all of you too. I'll get rid of him. What? And then she texts, then I'll be better. UGH. And then Torres. Was she premeditating this? My goodness. So the camera opens up again at 11:12 and 40 seconds p.m. And then at 11:12 and 45 seconds, she starts videotaping it. Here's the video.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me. Fuck you. Fuck you. Stupid. That's my name. Don't wear it on.
I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do. He shook me. Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe it. That's on you. Sarah, I can't breathe. It's on you. Sarah. Real ransom. Might want to give it for it extra. Because I got this. Sarah. Real ransom. Sarah. I can't breathe it. Oh. That's what I feel like when you ching on me. Sarah. Fuck you. Breathe, Sarah. Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck up.
For the record, that was img_1062.mov, now publishing 1063, same respective file name.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me. Fuck you. Fuck you. Stupid. That's my name. Don't wear it on. I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously. Yeah, that's when you do. He shook me. Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. That's on you. Sarah, I can't breathe. It's on you. Sarah. Real ransom. Might want to give it for it extra. Because I got this. Sarah. Real ransom. Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Oh. That's what I feel like when you ching on me. Sarah. Fuck you. Breathe, Sarah. Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck up.
For the record, that was img_1062.mov, now publishing 1063, same respective file name.
Yeah. Now, here is the second video that was recorded 11 minutes later, between 9 and 11 minutes later, at 11:23:03. Here you go. Yes. Now, did you notice the position of the suitcase? If you didn't, you can, I'll play it again if you want me to. Here, I'll play it again. There you go. The suitcase has been turned over, repositioned. So the first video, he was in a position where he could not get out of that suitcase. The zipper was down towards the ground. How was he going to get out? And and we're going to talk about her testimony in a little bit, but during her testimony, she kept saying, I left it open a little bit. I left it, he could get his fingers out. And well, not if you got it upside down and 100 pounds of weight on top of the zipper. You're not going to get out of there that way. No. But what happened during those 11 minutes? Well, now we know. She took a baseball bat to him, thrusting the baseball bat at the bag. And she says she did it because he was getting out. He had his hand out. He got his hand out. So she was trying to get that baseball bat to get his hand back into the bag. And she keeps doing it until his hand goes back in the bag. And then she sits back down to finish filming him. Then she goes up and goes to bed and falls asleep. I didn't pass out. I fell asleep. She passed out. Let me tell you. During this interview, she tells the lead investigator that they were painting and sharing a bottle of wine. That was about 4 p.m. One was half full from the night before, and then they had another one that he went out and purchased around 5 o'clock. So they decided to play hide and seek. She decided to go upstairs. He didn't come up after her. She's saying, where is he? She goes down. He's getting into a suitcase. They thought it was funny. She decides she's going to help him. And they're laughing about it the whole time. So what did she say on the stand? Here's what she said on the stand. First of all, with respect to this interrogation, she said, I wanted to get my phone back. This was the following day. I want to get my phone back. So she calls the detective and she says, can I come get my phone? And the detective is like, yeah, I'm pregnant. I'm nauseous. Actually, she wanted the detective to bring the phone to her. She said, I'm pregnant. I'm nauseous. You know how it is. And, can you come get it? She's like, sure, I'll come get it. So she goes down to the police station. The detective takes her, it's upstairs. Come on up. Now I'll give it to you. She goes upstairs and they show her to an interrogation room. And this long interrogation starts. This is according to Sarah Boone. So Sarah tells them that morning they get up. He wants to have a bottle of wine. And I'm combining the interrogation with what she says on the stand. The stories, like, she doesn't lie necessarily to the police, but she just leaves out a lot. She's not telling the whole truth. So she said they slept in that morning, or they woke up. This is a Sunday, and they decide they're just going to have a relaxing day at home. And George wants to start the day out with some wine. And she's like, no. Let's clean the house first, because she was supposed to, her son had spent the weekend with dad and was coming back home on Monday. So she said they mopped the floors, dusted, did laundry, ran the dishwasher, they cleaned the house. And then he went and bought a bottle of wine. So we know that was around 11-ish that he bought that bottle of wine. So then it's not till about 4 o'clock. She says 4 o'clock they started doing the artwork and stuff. The artwork was, she explained that her son had gotten this kit that had paints and all kinds of art supplies in it. Her son's only 9, or was only 9 at the time. So they get that out and they're doing art, and then they're doing a puzzle, and they did a smaller puzzle and they did it really quick. So they start a 1,000-piece puzzle, and it's so funny because we got it all done, but there was one piece missing. And, she goes through this whole thing with the puzzle. Then he taps her on the thigh and says, tag, you're it. So they were going to play hide and seek. So she goes upstairs to hide in the shower. she's up there for a little while. She says, I lay down in the tub for a little while, and then, he's not coming up, and I got up, he's not coming up, so I go downstairs to see what he's doing. She sees that he's getting into the suitcase. They're laughing about it. She goes and she helps and she zippers him in the suitcase. Now, she was asked to step off the stand and demonstrate to the jury how she zipped up the suitcase. Not necessarily physically how she did it, but where did she leave the zipper ends? In other words, like, what kind of opening did she leave him? And so she got to like one part of the corner and another part of the corner. So there was, an opening at the corner large enough that you could put a hand through. Except he's in a position like this, and that corner would have been up here. I don't know how he's going to get up there. Anyway. So then in the interrogation, I'm going to go back to the interrogation. She starts talking about how frightened she was of him. First she's saying, we had a great day. It was a wonderful day. We were enjoying each other's company. He's been abusive to me in the past, and he's taking these classes, and apparently he was taking a substance abuse class and a batterers intervention class, something like that. And he was doing well at his classes, and he was really learning stuff, and he was very excited about all the stuff that he had learned, and they were getting along, and it had been a really good, the violence hadn't happened in a while, and they were having a good day, just enjoying each other's company. So she starts talking about other instances where he hurt her, like curtain rod and some other things. And the male officer that was in the interrogation room, there was a female detective and a male detective. The male detective says, well, why didn't you leave him? She goes, well, everybody asks me that. It's going to sound really stupid, but I love him. I really love him. I really do. I really do. I think I was thinking I could make him a better person, and, whatever. I don't know what book she read to get that out of, but anyway. So she was saying it was a good month. So then the female detective says, we found some stuff on your phone that we'd like to show you. You videotaped him in the suitcase. Oh, no, first she says, he had some scratches and some trauma on him, from the autopsy showed that on his back and stuff. And she's like, oh, that's from sex, Then with respect to the trauma, though, she can't explain it. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what happened. I don't know. So she claimed to have never seen the video, never saw the video. I don't remember videotaping him. So they asked her to watch it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. But they said, no, we need you to watch this. So she watches a little bit of it. And then finally she sits back in her chair and she goes, I can't watch anymore. I'm not watching anymore. Yeah. And they're like, why were you doing this? She goes, I have no idea. I don't remember doing it. I don't remember this. Yeah. Then, the interrogation goes on. At the end of the interrogation, she's like, how do I get his wedding ring back? They're like, was it on his body? Yes. Well, then it's going to his family. Yeah. She didn't like that answer. All right. I'm going back to the other notebook. So we're going to talk about her taking the stand some more. I know I'm combining all this. I apologize, but I want to get to the meat of it. So she takes the stand yesterday. She said she was raised in Orlando. She has one son, Lucas, who at this point, I think I said he was 13 going on 14. Anyway, is joint custody with her ex-husband, Brian. She met George in a bar. She was still living in the marital home, which eventually she and Brian had to sell, and they split the proceeds. which is what she and George were living on, because neither of them had jobs. So she decided, I'm going to get out I need a change of scenery. So she leaves and goes to a bar, and she meets George. George has already been divorced twice. And they start dating, going to bars, meeting up at the bar all the time. So they got along really well. She thought he was really handsome, and I don't know what she saw in him, but okay. But when the marital home sold, she needed to get an apartment, but she couldn't afford it by herself. So they decided they're going to move in together. So they move into the apartment. Eventually, he asks her to marry him. She says yes. They are engaged. They've been living in this apartment for like 3.5 years. She did admit that there were several times when he left and he would go stay with his parents, who do not like her, by the way. So then she talks about February 23rd. So she goes downstairs, or she gets up and he's already downstairs. So she goes down, and he says he wants to have a drink. He wants to start off his day with a glass of wine. And she's like, no. Let's tidy up the house first. So they swept and mopped the floors, ran the dishwasher, did the laundry. After all that, then they start drinking. They're both smokers, so they were asked about, how far away is the Publix? Where do you get your cigarettes? So they already had a half a bottle in the fridge, so they both go to Publix around noon. They drove her car. I don't think he had a car. And so they drove her car, and then she paid with her debit card. And that's important because it kind of shows who's got the control in this relationship. She's got the money. She's got the car. The apartment's in her name. I forgot to mention that. Then she talks about their dogs. She has 2 dogs named Penny and Tez. Penny is blind. Tez is deaf. They're both Boston Terriers. So they get back. They had some drinks. They're enjoying each other's company. She encouraged him to call his daughters. They were sitting out on the patio for a long while. So smoking, with the dogs, just hanging out. He calls his daughters. He's got 2 daughters and a son that live up in another state, up north somewhere. So he calls the daughters. It must have been a very quick phone call. I don't think the daughters wanted to talk to him. Then he calls his brother, and she was asked, what is it you're saying in the background? And what she was saying was, tell your brother about you choking me. Tell him you choked me. That's what she was saying. So then about 5:00-ish, they decided to come inside for a change of scenery. She likes that phrase. He tells her he's going to walk to the convenience store. It was a very short walk to get some cigarettes. What he actually does is he takes her debit card, and he goes to Publix for another bottle of wine. So now they've purchased 2 bottles of wine, and they had that half one in the fridge. And she was asked to demonstrate on the stand what was the level of the wine. Now, this is one of these Magnum bottles. Thank you for teaching me that term. This is Magnum 1.5 liters. So with the label on the bottle, she's at about halfway up the label. That's how much was in there. Then they do the puzzle. They did a smaller one first, very quickly. Then they decide they're going to do a 1,000-piece puzzle. And she's laughing. She's, oh, we finished it, but there was one piece missing. Funny thing. Ha ha ha. Yes. Then they do some art. Her son at the time was 9, and in his room he had this art set with paints and brushes and all this stuff. So they get that out, and they're doing art. Then he puts his hand on her thigh and says, you're it, Tag, you're it. Now, by this time, they're intoxicated. So she goes up, she hides in the shower. I thought she had gone up to take a shower. No, she goes up to hide in the shower of the master bedroom, because there's the master bedroom has an ensuite shower. So she goes in there and hides. He doesn't come up to get her. So she goes back down. So she was asked, how did the suitcase get downstairs? And she said we store it in the master bedroom closet, but about a week or so prior to this, they had brought it downstairs because, the zippers are broken. We're going to donate. We're going to fill it up with some of my son's clothes that no longer fit him, and we were just going to donate the whole thing. So when she comes down, he is trying to lie flat in the suitcase. He's trying to conceal himself, with the lid, But she sees what he's trying to do. So she comes down and they're joking around, and she zips up the suitcase. So then she was asked to step down from the stand and demonstrate in front of the jury. They get the suitcase out. Everybody puts on gloves. She takes the zipper, and not how she did it necessarily, but like, at what point did you stop the zippers? Because she kept saying she left an opening. He could breathe. There was an opening. He could get his hands out this opening, and it was this corner of the suitcase. A zipper at one corner, a zipper at the other corner. So that whole corner of the suitcase, he could get his hand out. So she zipped him in there, and they're both laughing about it. She moved the suitcase around a little bit. And then she tells the jury, she goes, look, now he's in the suitcase. I am feeling safe. And she goes, this was my opportunity to tell him, speak to him, because he couldn't get out. She said that. He couldn't get out. So this is my opportunity to tell him what I think. So she said the majority of the time she was always scared of George. But at some point while he's in the suitcase, his tone of voice changed. They were arguing back and forth, which frightened her. He was cursing and threatening her. And then his hand came out of the suitcase. So this is what happened between the videos. So at some point, after she zips him in the suitcase, she sits down on the couch and she's videotaping him. And you saw that videotape. And then she says his hand got out of the suitcase. It was shaking the suitcase, or she was shaking the suitcase, trying to get his hand back in. He was saying stuff like, I'm going to make you unrecognizable. You're going to lose your life over this one. And so she picked up the bat that was over by the dining room table and starts thrusting it at him. And he puts his hand back in, and then she felt safe enough to turn him back over because the suitcase was turned over. So at this point, everything in the courtroom stops. The attorneys go sidebar. The judge dismisses the jury, and they were both the prosecution and the defense made arguments about whether or not she had testified about an overt act. In order to maintain a self-defense, or the battered woman defense, there has to be some overt act on the part of the person you killed, you were defending yourself against. And the state is saying, well, there's no overt act here. And the defense is saying, yes, there is. And she felt threatened and blah, blah, blah. So the judge says, I'm going to take this under advisement. I'll come back and give you my decision. So he takes this short recess. He comes back, and lo and behold, he says he found, by the totality of the circumstances, there was an overt act. So she gets to continue. What that means, once you find the judge says there's an overt act, then you get to talk about all the stuff that happened in the past to her. So now the attorney's getting out the poster boards because he said, acts of prior violence are going to allow it. So he's bringing out his poster boards with the photos of all her injuries, and I accidentally shows one, and I see it, and I'm horrified. She had the blackest eye I have ever seen in one of these photos. Holy cow. Yeah. So she takes the stand again, and they continue the examination. So what the judge had said was that the overt act has been established. It's in the law, it's not specifically defined. Nobody has ever defined overt act, but it can be based on the totality of the circumstances. So he doesn't want to get reversed, this judge. So he's letting it in. I'm sorry this is going so long. So at some point, she does that second video. She goes back upstairs, makes a phone call to her ex-husband, and then falls asleep. She's thinking, he's going to get out of the suitcase and come up there with me. So then the next morning, she sleeps in. Her phone's ringing. Between 12 and 1 o'clock, her phone is ringing. And it's her ex-husband calling her to make sure she's going to pick up her son. She doesn't answer right away. This is why he keeps calling. So she finally answers it. And then she, actually, I don't think she did answer it. She doesn't answer it. So she goes downstairs. She thinks George, he didn't come to bed. So she figures he's down, probably on the couch on his laptop looking for work. And she goes down, he's not there. So she checks the back porch. Maybe he's out there smoking a cigarette. No, George, I need some coffee. So he's not there. She checks the bathroom. As she's checking the bathroom, she sees the suitcase out of the corner of her vision. And then it hits her. Oh, shit, he's in the suitcase. Yeah. So she was asked, how did you feel at that point? Aghast. I felt aghast. Who uses that term? I feel aghast. Terror to a certain degree. Aghast. Yeah. So then they start talking about the prior injuries, and there was a laundry list. Bruising on her arm and chest on one occasion. Then she had a burn from soup that I guess they got into a tussle, and the soup was hot and it spilled on her. One time he stabbed her in the leg. She was bleeding so badly, and he wouldn't take her to the hospital because she couldn't drive. He wouldn't take her to the hospital. She said she looked in the mirror, her lips are turning blue. She begged him to take her to the hospital. He said he would if she promised not to say anything. And he made her concoct a story before he would drive her to the hospital. The story they came up with was they were sword fighting. Sword fighting. Then she showed her scar to the jury. There was one where she had a facial injury, one where she was pushed into a metal door and he stomped on her face. That was, I don't know if that was the black eye. I don't remember. Anyway, one where she was trying to get off the back porch and he hit her in the knee. One where she would barricade herself in the bathroom. He got in and he punched her. Then another one where he took a curtain rod, broke it in half, and then thrust the broken part at her. She was arrested for hurting George. Yeah. So my thought process on this whole defense is that these are two alcoholics that are not good for each other, and they're just feeding off each other, and they're hurting each other. I don't think one was the batterer versus the other. I think they were just beating on each other, and Yeah. So she was asked, why did you lie to the police? She said, I was afraid they were going to arrest me. Okay. But you're telling the truth today? Yes, I am. Okay. So she agreed that at 1 p.m. when she wakes up after the next day, that she felt like she was still intoxicated. 14 hours later, you felt like you were still intoxicated? Yeah. Then the state asked her this brilliant question. Would you have done this had he not been drinking? Would you have done this? Or had you not been drinking? Had you not been drinking, would you have done this? I don't know. I don't know. She talks about that he had been angry throughout the day. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Angry? You told the police it was a wonderful day. Yeah, anyway. So that was Sarah on the stand. So now it'll be the battle of the experts. Today the defense is going to put on an expert. I think he's got some more lay witnesses. Then an expert, probably the expert will be on tomorrow, and then he'll rest. The defense will rest their case. Then the prosecution gets a chance to rebut everything the defense said. All this stuff Sarah said on the stand. They're probably going to bring in George's medical records to show his injuries from all these tussles that they would get into. They're going to bring their expert in, to say she was not a battered woman. Probably going to say these two were alcoholics and they were just going at each other. Anyway, so I will keep you posted on that one. Have a great day, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment because I read all of your comments, love your comments, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.